Okay, so let's get started. Welcome and thanks for joining our session. My name is Jan Lemmens and I work at a company called Amplexor. And welcome to the first session in the business showcase track of today. But instead of showing you a specific success story or a certain case study we have at Amplexor, we would like to give you more of an insight into our experience we have when dealing with our customers, and more in particularly, more and more the case, those people we are dealing with are marketers. And we want to go into one specific thing concerning that is how do these marketers, how do they use the content management system, and how can they use it to create content, to manage content, and to present it in different ways to the visitors of the website without much technical knowledge. So that's what we're going to discuss today. But let's start with a little story about the industry, how it evolved, and why we are talking about this now. So we see that over time requirements has changed, expectations have changed. The expectations in the first place of the consumers, the end consumers of the products. Like for example, the customers of Amazon, which most of you may be a customer of Amazon. If you order something today, for example, you want it to be delivered as quick as possible. And it has even gone that far that Amazon and DHL are now sending out drones to deliver your packages. They're testing. They're doing some tests with it, but this is becoming reality. So consumers really want quick action from the companies where they're a customer, and really their expectations are much higher than they used to be. So marketers also want to get involved there and want to offer the consumers good information on the website. They want more flexibility there to address these consumers in the right way, so they feel engaged when they visit the website. So, anybody who knows this girl? Nobody seen this girl around? Well, this is a marketer, but she is very sad, as you can see. And she has many problems in her daily workflow. That's why she's so sad. And it's pretty painful to see. She has these things on her mind, like, this website is so slow and I can't do anything about it, and I'm not sure what the cause is. Other things that is, we have this WYSIWYG thing. It looks like Microsoft Word, but we can't really use it to effectively manage our website. It's always breaking things on mobile devices, etc. And the system is so hard to use. And that's important to note. It's one of the many remarks we hear. And this can be a Drupal customer. Drupal can be built in thousands of ways. You can build a Drupal website in many ways, and it really depends on the people working with it what the good solution is for the customer. So it all starts with requirements, and we've seen that these requirements over time, they used to be written by IT and business people, discussing many technical things like performance, SLAs, response times, all these things, and how will the system fit in our organization? Is it running on Microsoft servers? These kinds of things. And more it's getting more functional. Functional requirements get in there, and business requirements and functional requirements take the upper hand there. And requirements, they get slimmed down. This is a very small document here, and it gives us some high-level requirements that the customer has. And we have to make sure that we understand these requirements and understand what the customer means by it and what they want to do with the solution they're asking. So let's simplify things. Let's say we have a customer and he needs a greenhouse. A greenhouse, and its purpose is to grow the crops much faster. It's a very high level requirement. It's very interesting to see what happens. So this is a solution. It's perfectly suitable. This is a greenhouse which grows the crops which are inside much faster. It's one implementation of the greenhouse which is meeting the requirements. You show this to our customer and he has doubts because we didn't listen enough or we didn't ask the right questions. So when we ask the right questions, they reveal things that weren't even on their mind either. And by that revealing, it's important to understand what they're talking about. So after some discussion, we get to build a new greenhouse, or another company gets to build a new greenhouse, and it looks like this. It's a greenhouse, it's more evolved. But it's very important that we ask the right question. So what is the customer's purpose with the solution he's asking for? And why is he asking that solution? Isn't there another solution more capable, or an alternative? Maybe an alternative product. So that's things we have to evaluate. And if we have a good understanding of what the customer needs and what he wants and what his main goal is, we can build the greenhouse he has dreamed of. This looks more like it. So it fits nice with the garden. A lot of room for some plants, and you go inside to give some water to the plants, etc. So the customer really thinks from a strategy. He starts with a strategy. These marketers, it's not they don't need just a single website. They have a big strategy behind this in most cases when dealing with enterprise customers. So what you see there is some social media involved there. They have some channels in social media like Twitter, Facebook. There's some analytics there to analyze whether there are some significant, what's the impact of the actions they take. Mailing platform to send out emails. Some Excel files lying around to calculate some strange ROIs, and some Salesforce, of course, to use as a CRM. Put some user profiles in, and there's also a thing called the CMS, and it doesn't really matter for this customer what the CMS is. If it's Drupal, that's good for us, but it can be whatever CMS. He doesn't care. It should just work good, and it's just a tool in his toolbox. And moreover, these tools need to work together. That's very important, and that's a very strong point of Drupal indeed, that it's open and it connects easily to those services. Most of the services have a connector module already available, so that's plus for Drupal. So if you look at the stakeholders nowadays in projects, those are the people taking the decisions on what company to go for and what product to decide upon. And we see that most decision making, or more and more the decision making, is shifting to the marketing department and less by the sales department or IT. IT, by the way, is less involved, but still very important, of course. But they can steer the solution, but not have that much of an impact as they used to have, where they really could say, we need a Microsoft solution based on Microsoft components, so everything else is out of the question. So it's less and less the case. Companies are really willing to able to go for the cloud, into the cloud with their solution, and just have their service managed by someone else. So let's say this is your typical customer. I hope it's not, because it looks kind of boring. This is a really, they look like they're all the same guys. Nowadays, this is more like it. So if this is your typical customer, it looks very nice. You have some people with different skills in there, coming from multiple disciplines, and it's very important to know that those are not the same at all. So you can see right here we have this kind of, this is probably a business guy or marketing guy. Right there we have an IT guy, I think. It's typical stereotypes. But there are a lot of different persons here, and of course this must be a marketeer because she's dressed as Santa Claus. That means she has been, she's drunk, or maybe she's a marketer and she's coming up with some new crazy campaigns, who knows. So let's make an analogy here. So when you go into the Apple store, for example, I will use a lot of examples from Apple because they have good imagery, and I'm a bit of a fanboy too, but they have. You see, when you go into an Apple store and you see this guy and he's presenting you with all kind of IT, nice gadgets and stuff. It works really well for these tablets, smartphones, Mac computers, laptops, etc. But as most of people in the room might know, there is some new thing. It's coming up now. It's a watch, and unlike the other companies like Google presenting these watches, Apple is really trying to put it into the market as a fashion gadget. they're selling this model here in pure gold, which will be costing over $2,000 or something because it's pure gold. You won't go to this guy. He won't sell it to you in a good way. You won't feel comfortable in this space in the Apple Store. So when you're buying a $2,000 watch, you're looking more like this kind of environment because it suits you well. You're at home in this kind of environment when you have the money to buy that kind of watch. So you'll feel nice and easy. You can try on different bands. So what Apple is going to do, probably, who knows, is redesign its retail store so these customers with lots of money to buy a watch will feel more at home. And what Apple's trying to do here probably is trying to speak more of the language of the customer, in this case the watch buyer, and changing their environment, asking the right questions, because these people are different consumers. And that's exactly what we should do when talking to these marketers, because they speak a totally different language. And if you ask the right questions, we can really understand them and build a quality solution. That's essential here. So let's look at the Drupal community. This is a picture like we just like I took a minute ago, I think from last year, a couple of years ago, I'm not sure. Drupal community, like you see here, they're all looking kind of in the same direction. They're all pointing at Drisu somewhere there, I think, indeed. They're looking all in the same direction, and actually it's kind of true. Most people in the Drupal community are technical people. They're engineers, people who like coding stuff. And it's really typical of an open source community where all things start as a hobby. Not much of marketers in the community or business people in there, and definitely not marketers up until now. Maybe, I hope that will change. So in the Drupal community, most people speak tech talk, and that's super great because the product really is very nicely architectural. Very good pluggable it's very open, pluggable with other systems, so it works very well. But Drupal is not a solution to a problem, it's a product which we can use as developers to create solutions. It's not actually really a product in the pure sense, it's more like a framework. Out of the box, it's not looking super fancy, but that's not the purpose of the product. It's more like a framework. It's positioned as a framework. So you can build whatever solution you might like. There are various things you can do with Drupal, endless. So traditionally we use it as community software, content publishing, commerce, social engagement, all these kinds of things. And like I said earlier, you can implement it in many ways. And there is, for every specific use case, there is the right way and more suitable ways. So it's not really a product you take off the shelf and you say, this is how it works, this is how we're going to build the solution. And it's also very important to note when doing pre-sales, for example, is you can't show Drupal out of the box because it will look pale against the other competitive products like a CQ5, for example, Adobe Experience Manager. We know it because we also use these systems at our company. So we do Drupal, but also other products. And we know that Drupal is not that good when you show it out of the box, but that's not what you should do. A good demo with some real-life use cases tailored to the use case is much more appropriate. And that's where Drupal excels. You can easily build quick prototypes. So there is little focus on the webmaster experience in Drupal, because most of the people building the product are technical people. And they have less skills in the user experience design area or in the design area. So let's take a few examples here. I'm not saying these are bad modules, just not very technical interfaces. They're actually very good modules for technical people or people who know how to use them. So like you can see here is the views module, for example. It looks very technical. It has a lot of settings which can mess up the website. And that's not a big deal if you train people right, no big deal. But another thing in Drupal is that when you want to change a view, which is a list of items on the website, so you use this system to create a list, to change the order. You're probably doing that on the production environment because webmasters are working directly on the production environment. So when you change some things up and click save, and you make a mistake, your website can break. That's one big problem, and that gets addressed. And Drupal 8 is coming along. There will be some solutions around. So a solution would be you have an acceptance environment where you can test some things, create some things, and when you're done, you have to copy everything over to the production environment. And that's very technical. You can repeat your tasks, or you can export this thing using a JSON file, which is all crazy stuff to marketers, of course. So it's not really a good solution. So if you offer them interfaces to the webmaster which can break things, that's not really that good. This is the context module, also kind of technical. This is the panels module, which is used a lot. There are lots of things happening in the community there too. So we have distributions like Panoply who make it much easier to work with the system, but it's still very technical. But the CMS should not be a constraint to these people. They want it just to be a tool. They do not want it to obstruct their daily workflow. So Hannibal has a plan, and it's called WYSIWYG, or less he thinks so. This is a WYSIWYG editor. It's kind of like Microsoft Word is looking like, and you could use it to build whole pages with. So this is CK editor. This is the default one in Drupal 8, and what you can see here is an example of how to build a full page in CK editor. You have an image on the right hand side, some links in there, anchors here. You have a quote, and there are probably some tables beneath it, some flash movies, maybe some videos, and HTML5. And you see a lot of options there at the top. Problem with these editors are that you really lose the structure of content here. So it has very low semantics. Semantics mean what is the meaning of the content, what is the relationship between the different pieces of content on the screen. You lose that, and it's kind of important when you're working with smaller devices, for example. It has low consistency because you can use styles if configured not strictly enough. You can use different styles on different pages, so it's not really a consistent system to the end user, to the consumer. You can do not much of reuse, so reuse pieces of content on other pages, and it's not really what you see is what you get editor, because what you create here is a possible visualization of the page on a certain device with a certain screen size, with a certain browser, and with certain CSS in the back end of Drupal maybe. So it really isn't what you see is what you get editor. So it shouldn't be used that way. It will break your site if you mess things up here. So let's use another tool here. So is there any developer in the room here? Somebody build a Drupal website? You might know this screen. All right. So this is the screen you get when you first create a new content type in Drupal, and it automatically creates a title field and the body field here. And the body field, it suggests you can create a bunch of other different fields, what you should do. But what you can do by default is just use the body field and jam in all your content for the whole page, like we saw with the rich text editor. So what suggested is that you immediately delete that field from the system and replace it with a more structured way of working. But structure isn't everything. Too much structure, marketers hate structure because they want to create new things, they want to try new things, they want to try something different. So what we really need to do is find the right balance there between structure and flexibility. So the system technically works okay, and marketers can use it to be creative. So that's important, finding the right balance. And it really depends on the kind of customer you have. Some customers are really good with, some have IT people that are doing webmaster tasks which are really into HTML and CSS. That's fine. They can be used on the website too. And it also depends on the profile of the website. So what kind of website are you dealing with? Is it business to business, business to customer? Is it a marketing website or more like consumer support? So it depends. Let's go back to our picture here of typical modern customer, and you see indeed all these kind of skills there. And not everybody needs to have the same interface when working with a CMS, of course. There can be different profiles, different roles in the content management system. Like more IT guys can work their thing in CSS and HTML, while the marketer can use the more structured way of working, but still be flexible. So let's take an example here, again from the Apple website. So on the left-hand side, there's actually, in the same website, we have different types of mini websites or sub-websites. So on the left-hand side, you have the support website, which is very structured. This is a support website for the Mac, and you see that is divided in 3 main sections with subsections beneath it. So this is not going to be designed by a marketeer, not going to be pulled together every time there's a new item popping up. This is structured. Probably some kind of CMS behind it, nobody knows. On the right-hand side, we have the new marketing page for the iPhone 6, and I couldn't manage to get more on it, but it gets more crazy when you scroll down. Everything moves, so it's really a marketing website on the right-hand side, marketing page. In case of Apple, I'm guessing they're not using any CMS there because they're doing such crazy things with parallax effects, and I think these pages are designed not designed by, built by developers. So, but just to make the case clear that we have different kind of pages or different kind of websites, and it really depends on the use case. How the solution should be built. So, why is structure so important? We have 2 parts there. So on the left-hand side, we have the benefits for the user, for the marketeer or the webmaster. You have the possibility to reuse different kinds of components all over the website, and more importantly, you can do some automation. Like, for example, Drupal is very strong with tagging. So if you use the right tagging, you can make content pop up automatically on some places in the website. So you shouldn't manage them manually. For example, when you have some contact sheets in the CMS with contact information, you can reference those contact information from certain other pages on the website. So when you have to change a phone number, you only have to do it once. That's something that's really essential to content management, and we really do not want to get rid of that. On the other hand, there's also the need for flexibility. So on the other hand, we have the end user visiting the website, and end users really like consistency. When there's too many details differing between pages, they get annoyed and they get disorientated. And also accessibility is very important. And it's because we are working with the web, accessibility is fundamental. It's the most important thing. Is this website accessible to people on smartphones, tablets, all kinds of devices, but also blind people, for example, or other disabilities. People who can't use a keyboard or can't use a mouse, or who use speech, for example. That's also very important. So that's why structure is really needed. You can't go too crazy there. On the other hand, there's the need for flexibility. So because requirements change all the time, departments coming in saying, can you put this on the website? It's very urgent. They have to respond very quickly then. And what they also want to do is create some variations. In marketing terms, that means creating segments and personas, creating campaigns for these different segments, and show different content and do some personalization. Show different content based on the visitor's profile. So those are all things that are not that structured, but it's more like flexibility there. So the system that we use at Amplexor is based on components, and it's a system. It depends on the customer of how do we implement it. So these components are a mix between structure and flexibility. It's actually to get rid of the body field and make things more structured while keeping the flexibility. So 3 important things here about these components is that they can easily be placed on the page. They can be configurable, so they can have variation, and they're not technical. So you can work with them without any technical knowledge about HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript. That's important. It's a new way of building a page. But the concepts are used probably by other implementations too, or other solutions, or people might recognize the things we're doing here. It's just a way of showing how we tackle things in real life with customers. So 3 important things here about these components. There are 3 different kinds of components we use. And the first one is paragraphs. And paragraphs are a way to build the contents of a page. And figures are used to make some nice little illustrations next to a paragraph, so they're tied to a paragraph. So if you have two paragraphs, you can have two pictures or figures, for example. Figures can be anything. It can be a picture, a video. It can also be a Google map or a snippet of HTML which was put there by somebody who knows HTML and CSS. And it's really meant to give some nice graphical insight into the paragraph thing. Then you have the decorators, and the word says it. It's used to decorate the page. So they're mostly used at the top and the bottom to put some nice visuals in there. And these three components actually, when we show them to customers, they're all already starting to feel that this can solve their problem. Most websites actually can be built using this system or these concepts. Of course, for every customer, we tweak them in a different way. In a minute, I will show you a quick demo of a certain use case, but it differs every time. But these are the three main components we use. So this is an example of a page that is not that structured. It has some flexibility in here. So what we see, I'll split it up. So importantly, we have a paragraph in here, and you can see a figure which is used to illustrate the text. And in the bottom here, we have a decorator. So that can be a small box with some call to actions in there, and they can be configured. Every component here can be configured and can build variations upon. So let's look at a paragraph. In this case, we see indeed that the text flows over two columns. And the backend we use, we're not saying that the WYSIWYG should die. You should not use it as a WYSIWYG editor. We always call it the rich text editor. And we have some controls in there which cannot break the layout of the page, which you can use safely as a marketer, for example. Things that making text bold, making links, or making small lists. So this is really a minimal use of the rich text editor. And we also have some options to go with that. That's to create the different variations. Figures, which can be configured to go on the left and the right, for example, or go on the top in a full width. And then we have decorators, like we saw in the previous screenshot of the whole page. They use to decorate the page. It can be different variations. This is all the same component, and you can see the different variations here. This is also a variation. These are some modules that we used or use a lot when building these things. There's of course CK Editor, which we use as by default as a rich text editor. Is also in Drupal 8 by default now. So that's very good. It gets well integrated. We use Display Suite to create different variations, to build the different view modes we had. So for example, what we did is at the bottom with the Bandgate banner, we changed it to, say, a background image for female. What we're actually doing is just changing the view mode of that component. Those, by the way, were all nodes, what you're sawing. So we're using entity reference to pull in these nodes on the page, and we use inline entity form to create the nodes, or create, in this case, the decorator without moving from the page and creating it separately. So you can create a decorator in the page, and it is saved for later, and you can reuse it. Like I did, for example, with the figure of the iPhone. There's Facebook out in there for the authentication. Field collection, it's an important module just to make the different paragraphs work, to have multiple paragraphs. And what I didn't show is you could reorder the paragraphs by drag and drop without any hassle. So important to note is that field collection does not work that well when you're using Workbench, moderation, or multilingual websites. There are a few patches available which solve this problem, but be careful with that. And also we're using field group in the backend, so you can have the different tabs in the top of the website. So main content, decorator content, for example. And of course we have the media module to grab the images from the disk or from the library. And then there's Bootstrap, which we tend to use a lot because it's a proven framework. Most say every website will look the same if you use it, but we mostly use the grid system in it. So because it's kind of nice grid system we have in there to go responsive. It has a lot of best practices for responsive tables, these kinds of things, but you should not go that far by just including all the Bootstrap components so every website will look the same. It's not a marketing website anymore then. So also very important, what we can do is we can give the Bootstrap documentation to the customer, and if there are some people, technical people at the customer in the webmaster's team who know HTML and CSS, they can just look in the Bootstrap documentation, grab some components from there, paste it in the website, and do some new things there which we did not provide in these components. So we saw that at the customer happening, and it works actually very well. You even do not have to have some CSS knowledge. Bootstrap just works by putting some classes in the HTML, and the styling is done automatically. And styling is overridden by us to match the colors of the website. So, for example, if you want to put in a responsive table, we do that using just HTML. That's also a thing that IT people can use. So what about the future? How is it looking like in the future? I'm not sure if somebody is familiar with Akia Lift. It's a new product or new service from Akia, company Dries is working at. And it's really a web service which you can use to personalize your content on your website. You can connect it to Akia Lift, your website. You can create the segments from within Drupal, like I just showed you, but much more advanced. So you can create campaigns, and it's really focused on the marketer. And importantly, it's very easy to use. Something that is sometimes missing now in core and contribute modules. It's an external service at Akia, and you can connect your website to it, and you do not have to be a full Akia customer. You do not have to host your website at the Akia cloud to use it. You can just use it when you're on other hosting too. So that's really a nice product coming from Akia now, which really solves the problem of the user experience of the marketer when creating these segments and these campaigns and these personas. It also includes some techniques to automatically put a visitor in a certain segment based on the path he's traveling through the website. Next, there's Drupal 8. It brings a lot of technical new things on the technical side, but also for webmasters it can be very has quite of an impact because it now provides inline editing. So when you have to change a typo or something, or a quick change of text, you can do it without going to the back end like we saw in the demo. You can do it straight from the front end and see what it looks like on all different devices without saving or without going to the back end. But most importantly, we think is now in Drupal 8 the configuration and the content are separated. They're not only content is still in the database, configuration is out of the database, which is very important and which is overseen sometimes. It means that it can solve the problem of trying new things on the acceptance environment, for example, and pushing it to production. You can't do it easily right now in Drupal 7 because the content and the configuration are mixed. So when you push things to production, you push old content back to production and things get overridden. But this system, it is possible to push configuration. So you can change the order of a list and just push those changes to production. You can try these things on the acceptance environment and you push them to production. It doesn't make, for example, editing a view, so changing the order is still quite technical, but you can at least try things without breaking your production website and deploy it easily. It also allows, for example, to get some content back to acceptance without any problem very fast. So, a few takeaways. It's very important to understand the requirements of the customers to build a good solution, a quality solution that they're happy with. And ease of use there is super critical as people using these systems are not technical anymore. And using good demos during pre-sales to demo the potential of the product is very important because it's not really easy to use it out of the box to demo things. So that's also good to know. Some relevant sessions I noted from the schedule. maybe are interesting and related to this topic is engaging the UX and design contributors, which is this afternoon. It's about how to engage these people working in the user experience field and the design field to join in the community and make the product better. So I think if that happens more, the product gets more user-friendly and gets more well-designed for these users too. And Wednesday, tomorrow, we have a session about content staging in Drupal 8. So it's next to the configuration staging, you can also do content staging. So you can prepare content like these paragraphs, for example, on the acceptance environment and push them to production. So it's also a very useful session there. This one will be more technical, I think, and this one will be more about concepts and new ways of attracting new people to the community. Okay. So not sure if there are any questions you might have about the demo, about the slides, about the contents. Yes?
Is there access to the demo to show, or is it better maybe
the demo we used is not freely available in the community, but there are a lot of different solutions available as a profile. For example, you can use the demo framework from which was built by the people of Akia. And what it does, it demonstrates all the nice things and things you really want to show to your customer. It's called just Drupal demo framework, and it's really a framework too. So you can configure it and you can make it suit the use case of the customer when you're doing demos. So that's a very good system you can use to demonstrate things. Other questions? Okay. So if you have any more questions afterwards or later, you can always send me an email or you can tweet on Twitter. Also to note, right now you're at room G109, also known as the Unplexor room, so we're a very proud sponsor of this conference. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Boogie Boy, who's sitting there, who was very nice to me and would give me some time off to work on my session, time off from the project. So, all right, Nico. So thanks for the attention.